What's going on, y'all? This is another episode of DMC with Na'im Lynn. That is Deep, Meaningful Conversation. Man, I can't wait to get into this one. I got a very special guest today. This is a big bro to me, legend in the game, has influenced every comic that I can think of in some way or another. And he's here today, my first superstar guest. And everybody that I bring on is a star, but this is right here is a superstar. I got my man, Cedric the Entertainer here, man.
What's up, brother? What's happening, man? Pleasure, man. Thanks for the vittles. It was dope, though, man. Thank you, though. This is great.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you, man. You always come through. It'd be surprising me, too. Like, I invite you to some shit, and you show up. I'm like, that nigga really came.
Yeah. No, there's an interesting thing, though. Like, I'm really cool with the people I'm cool with, though. And I don't really take that for granted, because most of the folks that I allow in my life, I have the perception of being, like, really the people's champion, right? Like a very accessible, amenable kind of personality. But when you really think, when I really think about it, my group is really small. Like probably, very similar when you think about it. All the people that kind of tour with me, everybody that's always been the same little group. I'll open it up for a few people at different times, but for the most part, I'm very cool with the people I'm cool with, and I honor those relationships, because I think that those are the things that give me the most value, because I'm really fairly simple, even though my spirit is one of the people. Mm-hmm. I don't allow as many people close to me as people think, you know what I'm saying, as you would think. So
yeah, always been grounded. I don't like using the word humble. I feel like, humble, when you look at the definition, it's like, nah, I'm not that.
Right.
But you always been grounded, even with your celebrity. My barber, he always liked to tell this story about, my barber's name is Ali. I don't know if you know him or remember him, but he always tells this story about years ago. Y'all had some show, and it was pouring down raining, and you was like, you gave him like, yo, jump in. You didn't really know him like that, and you gave him a ride. He tell this shit like 5 times a year. Like, one day I'm gonna see him and ask him if he remember that. I'm like, he ain't gonna remember that shit.
yeah, probably was just like
I'm like, you let a motherfucker that's soaking wet jump in the Bentley?
Yeah. What car was I in? That made me like, I must have been in my white truck or something.
Like, you sure that was me? I don't remember that shit. But but that is, I think that is, growing up single parent household, Midwest kind of thing, growing up in St. Louis, Caruthersville, Missouri, before that, a little smaller town in the Boot Hill, Missouri, but very, very much that. Very much the neighborhood was the neighborhood. Everybody knew each other. Mm-hmm. You kind of like rock with your folks. Everybody is included in and especially your particular, group of people. Everybody is all the same. Like, right. So you just, you throw it in there in the group. And even when it comes with celebrity, that was always a hard thing when I started to make it, was realizing like the group of friends that started to, people always think you the one change. Oh, man.
But it be them. And it was crazy because, with your fame and celebrity, people started to go like, is it okay for me to come over there and say hi to you? What? You be like, is it okay to come over and say
people that know you?
Yeah, you be like, man, if you don't stop it, stop that. They projecting. Man. Yeah, they projecting a very interesting, space of hierarchy, and and then understand that, that can work in the world, where sometimes you do see people and you realize like they may appear to be on a different plane or something than you have, but I've learned that in different rooms that it's always going to be levels to it. It's always going to be somebody with more money, with more power, with more situations. So literally be yourself. I had to learn that too, but that is, a case where I'm not expecting people to put me on any degree of pedestal. You know what I mean?
Right. But the fact is, you do change. It's just part of your evolution as a human. You know what I mean? So you're going to become a different person. People that see you at 35 can expect you to be the same way you were in high school, celebrity or not. But because you're a celebrity, they may attach to, that nigga act different. Like, nigga, we all act different.
Right. That's real. And and these are the expectations again, but you say you put them projecting even more of that onto you. the fact that if you aren't keying or interested in talking about the old days for the 159th time, like they don't want to talk about that shit no more.
You remember Miss Johnson?
Yeah, nigga, no. Like I don't want to say that same shit no more to you, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? So and you know, like so you get to the point where you just more direct with people and you're like, look, don't mean I ain't rocking with you. I just don't want to do the small talk, man. Like, what else we gonna talk about? You know?
Facts.
So, but but people will take that as a slight. You know what I'm saying? Anything that is your involvement, right? You be like, dog, I don't eat Popeyes no more. Like, you know, like, oh, that nigga don't eat Popeyes. You like, bro, like this, I've got high blood pressure. Yeah. Did I need to tell you that? Like, in order for me to be real, I had to admit all my ailments. Nigga. I'm on amlodipine, nigga. Like, what the fuck I need to tell you? So you can just know I'm a regular nigga. Like.
Shit. Okay, so you let me start with what I know about you, right? Which isn't, I mean, your past, not much. I know you from St. Louis, like you said, and you got a sister.
Yep.
Is it just you two?
Just us two.
Okay, your mom, and then you said you grew up in a single parent home.
Yeah.
You ever have a relationship with your dad?
A little bit. You know, my dad was someone that I knew as a young person. They separated young. They had us young. That was one thing I had to learn how to be, my father's son, if you will. And you grow up to this. I hear this in so many, stories about, guys and their fathers. And, once you become an adult, you recognize some of the pressure. But they were 19, 20-year-olds from little country towns, and they went ahead and, they had children. My mother, so I was first, and then my little sister is 3 years younger than I am. But my mother raised us, and my dad would show up from time to time, just be around. But he was always, not truly engaged. Just, again, wanted to do
the pressure of it.
Yeah, I think, as I got older and got to understand, he drank a little bit too much and became alcoholic, and then it'd be things that where my mother wouldn't even just let him come around because he didn't know how to control his liquor. So she'd be like, you can't come over here. My kid's not getting ready to be subjugated to none of that, right? So you don't know that. You think it's him, but because he didn't know how to control his substance abuse at the time, then eventually you grow up, and then he matured. He got a little better, a little older, and so eventually we grew into a relationship where we were able to communicate, especially once I became a young adult. So more like friends and operate from friends, and not necessarily a father-son situation, but one where, I definitely learned to respect him as my dad, and, but I probably was more the leader of the situation than he was,
To try to connect?
Yeah, I mean, he would try, but I was like, especially during my teen years, like most young men, you start to rebel. I'm living in St. Louis. St. Louis is a town that is basically very racially polarized and have nots. My mother was a school teacher who knew how to live life in a way that felt very advanced. So we felt like people who lived with, like, we had money, like the perception was that. And again, once I got older and realized how much my mother made per year, I was like, what the hell?
Like, 12,000.
Yeah, like, you like, what the hell? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, and yet, and then to know, like, my dad was only contributing the very minimum that he could, and he had a great job and all those kind of things, but he was a very cheap, frugal kind of personality, and only did what he had to do. Like, he never, so those became real issues when I was like, in high school, and you got to do field trips, or you want to rent a car to go to something, and he like coming through nickel and diming the situation. With meanwhile, my mother doing what she got to do to figure out how to make it work, right? And so I used to be very hard on my dad. We had a very hard relationship for a long time. And then I think I got around 22, had my first real kind of love affair, real love, and realized how hard relationships are, like the idea of being in one and communicating. And it became clear, like, then you throw a kid on top of that. I was like, oh, bro, he was out He was way out of the, he was out in the deep end too soon, you know?
Yeah.
So so we started to figure out how to make amends just step by step, you know, through that space. And, you know, eventually got to a place where, you know, we're very amenable and cool with each other now. And my sister helped out because, you know, girls, they gonna love their dads, you know, to the death. So she definitely was a person that became a great conduit for us being better, you know, in a better relationship, me and my pops. So
Right, you still alive?
yeah. Yeah, so pops is still alive, 85.
He ever come out like holidays and stuff like that?
He did. He's come out a couple of times. He hasn't got a little, you know, sickly now where he can't travel like he used to. But you know, he came out, my Walk of Fame star. He's come out back when I was shooting the Soul Man. He came back, but I don't think he ever got a chance to come see me do the neighborhood. You know, and then whenever I would tour, you know, especially he used to live in Memphis. He's back in the St. Louis area now, but whenever I was in Memphis, he'd go to the games. We go to Grizzly games. We'll go play golf, you know, and so, you know, I was able to do a lot of cool things with him later in life that was like just these kind of cool bonding moments, just he and I kind of just kicking it a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Tyler Perry talks about he found out that his dad wasn't his father.
Yeah.
His father abused him. Then he got a test later in life. He said when his mother died, she said, you know, just take care of your father the way he took care of you, meaning providing a roof, food, and all that stuff. So his father has a home and a car and all that, but he doesn't speak to him. I guess he gives him some type of monthly allowance or something like that. Do you like take care of your dad in any way?
I do that. Yeah, I mean, now he did, like I say, he did well and was able, but as he got older, so he has, you know, retirement and all that stuff. But when he was in Memphis, you know, he was like becoming really sickly and in and out of the hospital. And it was just he and his wife, and she's, you know, as elderly as he is. And so she couldn't take care of him. And so, but she has 2 daughters in Missouri. I got my oldest daughter is in Missouri and St. Louis as well. I got nephews and family there. He has nieces and nephews there. And I just had to like basically take over and was like, hey man, like you got to move from Memphis. You know, he's like, this is my home and all. I'm like, bro, like it was a time where he had to go to the hospital and she had COVID. She didn't know where he was. Both of their phones had died and we had no idea where neither one of them was. And it was like, you know, my sister had to jump on a plane. Her daughter had to get in the car and drive 4 hours just tracking them down, you know. And the fear of that was like, this is over. So at that point, he just wasn't really prepared to move. So I found a house, moved them, took care of the house for them. Matter of fact, they've been in this house for a couple of years. I just bought it and then like let them stay there. And now he needs to go really into a little bit more of a
like an at-home nurse.
Yeah, he need a little bit more care because she can't. Like he fell the other day and he was on the ground and you know she had to call somebody to help come. So I was like, bro, this can't be that anymore. Like you gotta have to be in a place where there's people around and can take care of you. So these are things that he wouldn't do for himself in a way. He wouldn't spend money on these kind of things. So I'm helping him understand like you got money for it, Dad, but we'll do a little bit of it, and I'll cover the things that you won't need. But you need to live life at a lot more higher quality, you know.
Right.
Now, when my mom was ill, it wasn't no question. Like everything was, you know. Again, she was my mom. She's passed those like in 2015, but you know, like again, that was everything was all outboard. You got at home staff. I was doing it like it was me, like, you know what I mean? So, but you know, so it's been that. But you know, again, I do it with the sense of pride that you know he my father, and I'm blessed to be able to take care of these things, and I want his life to not be one where he feel the stress of being old. And you recognize that when people get older, like it's probably one of the saddest kind of interesting things about life to me is that people who you see as these powerful individuals, when they get older, they become feeble and frail and scared. Yeah. And you like, that's an unfair, kind of imagery that we have to live with as your loved ones are going, reaching the end of their life, seeing them be in so much pain and and it's not much you can do. I mean, it's not much you can do but try to make their lives comfortable. But that's a wild space, right, to watch, the end of life when it's like people are not the vibrant personalities that you know them to be.
Yeah.
And they have to become something else. And it's just it feels unfortunate that you have to live life like that. I don't know why.
They almost become babies again.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a change of responsibility, right? Like you put any of the number of major ailments that, come into this world from, cancer to Alzheimer's or any of these things, you understand that people, need a lot of, you can't take your foot off the pedal, right? You have to be, in a way, be acutely aware on a daily basis of what's going on there, So I think that responsibility is one that is just hard to watch, and yet at the same time, again, I feel very fortunate to be at least in a position to be able to do something about it.
Yeah. As I see one generation to the next pass, it's like you kind of feel like, all right, I got one grandmother still alive. She's 94. But then after she goes, then it's like, all right, and my parents, then you be like, shit, I'm next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Dog, I'm 62, man. I'm 62, and I'm starting to get them calls now. You know what I'm saying? Where you get that call late at night and be one of your partners.
Yeah.
And you like, damn, we really starting to wind up where you starting to understand, like, generationally, you rolling into that cycle of things where the people that were in your peer group are starting to, they starting to drop off, and you in that same group. So certain things be very much a part of, this kind of circle of life that we live in, right? And so, and it is, health is one of these things that become very clear that none of it else matters, right? When you're not healthy or you sick or you find yourself limited in any kind of way, you realize that, all the, cashing up and, hoes, whatever you measure yourself by having, like, none of that don't matter, right? So it's definitely about having, good and beautiful people around you, real laughs, real love, real family. These things become, more and more clear. And I think, especially as black men, we had to learn to kind of recognize that earlier in life. I think, we've always kind of been behind these deficits. So when you get it, it becomes about the things that you can have to prove that you got these things. But now it just feels like we're coming more and more into, the generational spirit of people recognizing, that real joy comes in, accomplishing goals, satisfying your the needs of your true loved ones, and being a person that can say these are the things that you left behind, like whatever they may be, but accomplish things. I try to teach that to my kids. My sons is like, you finish things, dog. Like don't allow yourself to not do the things that you dream of, like because you think somebody else could do it better or whatever the case may be. Like you really, it's important for you to go out and finish the task. Just do, and these small things, big or small, sometimes certain things are going to win big, and certain things are just going to be for the sake of doing it, right? And you know that you did it,
Right.
And and if it ain't your cup of tea after that, then move on. But you did it, and you have that story to tell. You know what I mean? So that's it.
So you say your mom was a teacher, which makes sense, because one thing I've always noticed about you is it's not necessarily a code switch, but when you perform, you are the entertainer. When you're doing interviews or you're talking to someone, you're very articulate.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's intentional. Is that true?
Yeah, I think, when I go on stage, it's interesting because the late Robin Harris was the person that I recognized I can do comedy. Because Robin Harris was very much that uncle that in that space of, like performing with family and friends and cousins, this is how I identify with going on stage, right? So it's very much, living room, backyard, just talking to your folks. And so I can allow myself not to necessarily always over-articulate words or decide that, vocabulary is the key thing for communication. But what I do, what I also, because my mother was a school teacher, it was also a thing that she insisted upon, right? Like she insisted upon you knowing these words. She insisted upon you knowing your subject and verb predicate and how to do things and how to say words the right way. And so these are things that I guess, when you're kind of having more of a conversation, you find yourself very, speaking very clearly. But when I go on stage, the performance is that uncle in the backyard, that cousin that just sitting up talking shit when you there, so therefore, if I say libel or I ain't fitting her, like, it's just the way it come out, and I'm not worried about that. You know what I mean? So, and I remember one time early on, my mother came to the show and she said that to me. She was like, "What is that language you doing up there?" And I was like, "Mom, I'm just literally letting magic happen, because if I go up there and try to control it, then I'm like overthinking it, right? But if I just allow myself to be in the moment when I'm on stage, then there's a certain freedom of like letting humor kind of come out, like, the way that it comes out. Certain things do come out like very articulate, like that's just the way the way I, construct a joke and insert. But for the most part, I'm just really up there allowing myself to be this guy, like that's like free to be on stage in the spirit of the moment, and here we go, like, what I'm saying? And so, and people that don't perform, even your road managers, and I always talk about this a lot, because like my road manager been with me since junior high school, right? I mean, as a person, and then when I started working, he just kind of came along, but he would be like, "Man, you should did this and you should have did that on stage." I say, "Bro, as much as y'all think like I got all this control up there, when you're on stage, you literally are a person that's kind of, I would imagine, like jumping out of an airplane. You're free and you're feeling it. You know how to do this. I do know how to jump out of an airplane and pull my chute, but I'm subjugated to the wind. I'm subjugated to like how fast I'm falling today. Like all these things are happening to me, not to you, because you can look at them. Like, and that's the difference. Like, it's because you're looking at it and saying, "Man, you killing it." And I'm over here thinking, "Man, this wind doing some shit. My right leg keep blowing harder than the left. You can't see it because I know how to do this, but that's concerning me. I'm gonna switch." Like
a corner man when you boxing,
right? Yeah, and you need to get low and throw that left hook. You like this?
Let your hands go,
man. All right, thanks, fam. Like, get your ass up here. You ain't throwing your left. Okay, all right.
Yeah, my left.
I threw that left. I threw that left twice. This whole eye messed up. Got it. Thanks, Sarge.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that being said, is it important to you that people know or think that you're intelligent, or you in a space in life where you don't give a fuck? People say they don't give a fuck about shit sometimes, but they really do.
It's interesting too. It is one, because I mean, I like to speak like honestly and truthfully in my circumstance, but you can be challenged by, it was interesting because I did a podcast with this kid. I don't know if you know him he's on the internet, Josh Doss, and he's like this analytics, young guy, does analytics and usually got braids and cool kid, very smart guy. And there was a degree of intimidation because of his intelligence, like the way that he speaks and the way he can break down things. And you can walk into that trying to think like, I need to prove like I'm a smart person. Yeah. But for me, I've recognized that, again, in any situation, somebody's gonna be smarter than you are. They're gonna be more articulate. They're gonna have more wordplay. They're gonna have a better grasp of the English, vernacular and words from the dictionary. So don't put yourself in situations where you need to prove anything to anybody. Just be yourself there. And if it comes out cool, if you start to say something and you think you got this cool ass phrase you about to say, and all of a sudden you run out of words and you just say it like shit. Go with it. Yeah. Be like, hey man, I thought I was about to drop us some drop something on you, but I ran out of words. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, but I do think that it is. We live in a society now where it is important to people to know that you have a point of view. I think people do want to know like that you stand on something or kind of like where you're coming from. And I think the best way to articulate that is whatever's truthful to yourself. I love the clarity. That's something that you've always been I've heard you talk about this in podcasts before, like people would think that you're mean or something like that. But really, I think that, I've always known you to be one of these people that's kind of like an OG uncle type that just they keep it plain. They say what they say and they keep it 100. And therefore, it ain't got nothing to do with you. Like, I'm just saying what I'm saying. I ain't really trying to shine this shit up for you. And I think, those people, they can exude a degree of intelligence that goes far beyond somebody that's kind of like just saying words, right? Because you like understand exactly what they're meaning. Right. And if that's clear, then intelligence is measurable.
That's what I call eloquence.
Yeah.
Being able to be easily understood.
Yeah.
Just give it to them, And yeah, I can be taken the wrong way, but I don't really give a fuck no more.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you know your shit, it allows you to be whoever you want to be. So if you want to act like a nigga, if you want to go on stage and say some and talk in our vernacular or whatever, it's okay to do that because whenever somebody challenges you or try to take it somewhere, you ready for all of that shit.
Yeah.
You can talk politics, you can talk about all these things. And that's a great place to be in life. It's liberating, like I just be me. And whatever you trying to bring, I'm ready for it. So I can act however I want to act. So
well, that's truly like, and again, a lot of us have that. And I say this about myself. Like I grew up in a small town. Like in a small town, Missouri, with country people living. You got dirt roads and kids outside barefooted running, and it's you know your neighbors, and it's country. It's a country little town, right? And then we moved to the city, and then while my mother was finishing her master's degree, we lived in the inner city with my aunt who had like 11 kids. Damn. So this was some hood shit, like hood niggas. Sleeping everybody sleeping all in one room, crawl. We stealing niggas' bikes. We throwing rocks at trucks. You doing hood project-y type fun. That's what you think is fun, like destructive energy. But theoretically, you fighting, you being challenged by nonsense. And then I went to college, then I worked in corporate America, and then
doing what though?
What?
Corporate America, what were you?
So I worked for Ricoh Corporation. I sold fax machines when they were new, so that was dope. It was a new technology. People thought I had magic when you could because you used to have to mail a letter everywhere, right, or mail a note. Yeah. And if I showed you how I can get you this machine, you get this machine, and I can send you a letter and you'll have it in 2 minutes, it was crazy. Like so, we were like, so I was like, especially for the auto body industry. So for insurance companies or anything, and you had an auto body, like you can write an estimate and fax it to me, and boom. And so I was moved. It actually kind of led me to State Farm because that was one of my customers. I would have the machines that the auto bodies have, and then State Farm was there, and I filled out an application one day in the State Farm and became a claims adjuster. And so I was one of the original Jakes, like the claims adjuster dog, the red shirt and the whole thing, so.
You could take that nigga job, right?
I met him before. I told him, what's up, son?
You tell State Farm, like, yo.
It's like, well, we had these conversations before. It never really amounted to anything. It's very interesting that, like, that all of these years and the many times that this has come up in interviews, we've never really figured out a way to turn that into a business relationship. That the fact that I really was a State Farm claims adjuster. So, you know, we continue to push the push it along, but it'll come to fruition, I guess, at the right time. Yeah.
By the way, I was just playing about taking a nigga job, you know.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Then, now you be like, no, he don't like the
I don't like stable.
No, he's a cool kid. That's great.
So, where did the baby? Where did that shit come from?
I was on stage. You know, I think it was I was on stage like and it was like a kind of like a saying. Like it was just like a saying that people used to do. Like, baby. It was a DJ in St. Louis, and people would like, you know, they would call into the radio and say, baby, and that was just a thing that we did. Like, you know, it wasn't a
St. Louis thing.
Yeah, like a St. Louis thing. It wasn't even no big thing. So then I started using it when I would walk out on stage just to say, baby, and everybody say it, right? Yeah. And the same thing with I Holla, that was kind of like a thing. Like it was a couple of, that was, I think, of course, that was just a natural hood departure, right? They let on, you know. Some people say bye-bye, somebody say, get at you. We would be like, I Holla, you know, and that was it. So I just took them and make them catchphrases.
Okay. Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
I worked with you for about 6 months back in 2008. I know the year and everything because I just got out here.
And this is a classic story. Yeah. This story's been living on so long. This is so funny.
Yeah, Kevin loves talking about it because in his mind,
he's such a jerk.
In his mind, I quit working with him to come work with you. So it's like he always holds it over my head, but it was never that. It was me trying to work with both y'all simultaneously.
Yeah.
I just started doing comedy full time. I've been doing comedy for 10 years, but I started doing it full time like a year and a half before that.
Yeah.
So you know how it is when you first start doing it full time, you just try to make sure you got the money coming in so you can take care of yourself. And at that time, you was paying more than him. So, you know, it was like if y'all had a show the same weekend, I'm going with you. And for whatever reason, he takes it personally, but it's always he always said that you fired.
Yeah, nah. And that's interesting because I do think we say the same thing about that same space because that's what you do as a comedian too, like, especially as you start to grow and you get a lot of opportunities and you like talented people. We had a mutual friend, Natalia. You know, she knew of you. She liked your comedy. I checked you out, thought you was funny. And then start using you, right? And it's like, and the thing is that you have a different sensibility than I do, right? In the sense that, so it was hard for you to kind of write jokes for me because your sensibility, especially even then, you probably immature, but if you did, you was straight Philly and super like edgy. And I was like, well, Na'im, I can't go, bitch. Shut the fuck up. I can't finish the joke like that. That doesn't work for my brain.
Right.
You know, but I mean, we tried it for a while and it was simply that for me. Like it wasn't even no big deal. Yeah. And, you know, and again, but to the point that I never thought that you wasn't my guy, like, you know what I'm saying? So even when you got with Kev, I was happy for you because I was like, well, I can't really use him, but, you know, I'm glad he's still rocking, doing well, and then, you know, start seeing you moving around and being in the neighborhood and all these things. And I was like, all right, well, dope. That's dope. I love when it all come together. So, and I get Kev always messing with you on that. This is classic to me. We was laughing because he'll come up to me about it too, man. Why you fired Na'im? Nobody fired Na'im, man.
The cool thing about it is I never took it personal. Like it's like you know how you about to lose the job and you like shit, you know, this shit ain't going that well. And I realized also that it wasn't a guarantee that I was going to be around. It's like it's a trial period. Yeah. And it just didn't work. And I never took it personal. But the biggest lesson I learned from working with you was the last day. And I've talked about this before. I don't know if you remember it, but it was me, you, KB, and we were at baggage claim getting back to LA. And also that day when we were leaving the airport, wherever we were coming from, you made me pay for the food. So it was almost like this is nigga last date. We gonna make this nigga pay for the food. But we got to the baggage claim, and Malik came up, right? Who's a good friend of both of ours now, and he came up and spoke to y'all, and he didn't speak to me, and I was like, and which was one of the reasons why I didn't like the nigga, because he never would acknowledge me. And it's like, bro. Neither one, we in the same class. We both been on the same shows. You know who I am. Like, acknowledge me at least, nigga. You're not even looking at me. I'm like, what's this dude problem? So after he walked, I was just giving like bad energy. He walked away. You and KB was like, damn, what was that about? I was like, I don't like that nigga. Like that. And you got his number that day. And next thing I know, he working for you. And the lesson I learned was, first of all, I was being a fucking hater. Right. And I like to not think of myself as that. And also to make sure that I don't give that type of energy, because then he came along and started working with you, and he's still working with you to this day. And so many things have happened from that relationship. Yeah. And a couple years, not even a couple years, we did Comics Unleashed together. This is how the universe is crazy. We did Comics Unleashed together. And you know, Comics Unleashed has 1,000 comics. Yeah. So for us to end up being on the same show was crazy. And then that was the first time we actually talked a little bit. I was like, dude, cool. And then I had to apologize to him. He didn't even know. I was like, bro, I was hating on you like a motherfucker that day. And he was like, wow. I was like, I just ain't like you. Yeah. I just didn't like you. Yeah. And now he's one of my best friends out here. Yeah. So it's crazy how things come around. But when I was working with you, man, what I appreciated so much, not just the opportunity, but the camaraderie that I had with you and JJ, and the way we would laugh so much about certain things. And I saw you go from, always nice to me, but it was like, yeah, okay, cool young guy coming up. And then I saw you get to know me and start to trust me. Yeah. And it might have been, you was drinking what's your shit back then? Not Grand Marnier. Was it Grand Marnier?
No, it was probably the Hennessy XO. I used to do the XO. I might have Grand Marnier.
You had a little.
Yeah. What was those things I used to do? There was a drink I used to drink with the combination.
With Grand Marnier.
Yeah, Grand Marnier.
But I saw you open up and just start to share with me a little bit, and we had conversations. I remember one of the conversations we had was about some of your movies not doing that well. Yeah. And you were like, man, when we were doing it shit seemed funny as hell. Yeah. And then, it comes out, and the critics can't wait to tear some shit up. But one thing that's great about you is you've always worked. Yeah. You've been blessed to always work, and I believe that I attribute that to, number one, you being a good person, and also being a likable person. And people don't realize how far that goes in this industry. So with you being able to work, you had a streak where you were doing a bunch of movies, not so much anymore, but now you still doing TV. You went from Soul Man to The Neighborhood, lasted 8 seasons. Yeah. Did you ever have a point in your career where, and I know we all do, where you feeling unsure, you stressed out, or because the ebbs and flows of this shit, like, did you ever get to a point where it's like, damn, I'm starting to maybe decline, or I reached my apex and now I'm trying to was there a pivot or anything?
Well, it was an intentional pivot though. It was kind of tough because the movies, the success of a film is really what makes you a movie star, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can have celebrity and do movies, and so we jumped out the box, with the barbershops and these things are popping, right? And, I'm like a standout star in the barbershops that lead me to a number. And then you end up doing the deals, right? So now you get this big number that you're making, but you realize you're now inside the system. And this is something that we all kind of learn. Even I think is greater now for the young guys who build podcasts and do their own kind of shoots, and the Desi Banks, the Drewskis of the world, right? These guys build their own ecosystems where they ain't got to wait for the system to be able to deliver something. But when you get a movie now, back then you get the movie and you take the big check, you get this big check, And now you think you have power, but you don't, because the studios just really was the powerhouse. So, you get a director you don't want. Then you get a writer you don't want. And next thing you know, you're doing a movie that's not even the movie that you agreed to do, but you want that money. And so that happened to me back to back. And in both situations, these were films that if they had been the movie that I signed on to do, I feel like I would have been off and running. Yeah. But at each time I acquiesced for the paycheck. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to give up the money, and these were life-changing deal monies. This was life-changing. He was like, all right, I'm not giving this shit up because I want to prove that I know what I'm talking about to this man about his business, right? But I'm telling him that's not the director for this film. Mm-hmm. But he was like, nah, this the one we paying, so you deal with it, right? In each situation, come down. So, but in the scenarios where all things come together and you're in control, I have great successes. And so you have to learn to be that, And so what happened is that my kids also, all the movies weren't being shot in Los Angeles. Everything was away. We shot Codename The Cleaner in Vancouver. We shot The Honeymooners in Ireland. We were just everywhere. And then my kids were starting. They were young in those movies. And then the next generation, they were at, school age. Mm-hmm. And it was going to be one of these things for me to be gone for 4 months and away from my family and, 3 and 4 months not being able to be a part of their lives just wasn't a choice. So I pivoted to television. So we did Cedric the Entertainer Presents first, which was 1 season. And then it was a period after that it was a gap, right? Yeah. But because I had done Kings of Comedy and because I had some movies that had been successful, Johnson Family Vacation was successful, Barbershops was successful, they did a sequel in there. So it was opportunity to make a living, but you can still do big stand-up, right? Yeah. So I was able to still go out and do arena-sized stand-up, small arenas, but, and usually with my friends. But I prefer to tour like that. Mm-hmm. I didn't necessarily have the ego where it had to be me. I wanted to be out with my boys, everybody on the tour with me, we having a good time. So we did the comedy Get Down, me, George, and Charlie Murphy and DL and all that. That was a great run. And so those are the kind of things that I measured myself on and not necessarily by the industry standards, because I was still successful. I was still able to live a good life, still making millions of dollars. It wasn't no problem. It's just the fact that I'm not the it guy, right? Mm. And those things, they can mess with you when you don't think you're the it guy, but then I just like to entertain. So I look for the opportunities to perform. So when we got The Soul Man, even though it was on TV Land, it was a show that I was in control of. Mm-hmm. I was in control of the show. I was able to pick my directors. I was picking my writers. I wrote the show. I co-wrote the show with so I'm in charge. I'm the co-creator. Yeah. I'm in charge of the situation. Pick Niecy. I'm able to pick what I want, right? And so ran for 5 seasons. We were on a small network, but it was a beautiful situation. Fun to go to work every day. You're making good money. You're kicking it. That led to the neighborhood. So all of these kind of things, they can feel like you're kind of not hot. And that's the thing about, when someone gets like white hot, you get like the levels change. I remember, early in my career, and then Chris Tucker got hot. He was like the it guy, and then that became the new measure, right? You got to be like, oh, you just got this. He got that. Mm-hmm. If you ain't got that, you ain't nothing. You like, well, that's Chris Tucker. You know what I mean? And then again, not for me to measure myself against Chris Tucker, but I got a good life, man. I'm doing good. Life, and I just learned to embrace those things, because that's the truth of the matter, right? And because I've seen, and one thing for me, I guess, was being close to Steve. I've seen Steve Harvey go up and down and always be a fighter. Yeah. Literally go up, top of the food chain, look like he got knocked all the way back down. Everybody will be like, fall off like Steve. Yeah. But that was never his mentality. He never saw himself as off. He was just like, I pivoted to radio, made a big radio show, it seemed like I fell off because I'm doing radio, but next thing you know, I'm in 70-something markets, and I'm making more money than I made on television. You don't know that because it feel like I'm on radio.
Yeah.
But if you look at my life, it's way better than my TV life. Next thing you know, I'm doing the Family Feud. Oh, he hosted a game show. Next thing you know, I'm hosting the game show.
Right.
Like, you know, you look up, and your perspective is the one that changes everything. So yeah, I don't do big movies or anything, but I'm definitely one of these person that believe in my sense of humor. I love to entertain, and I always believe that I got that punch in me. So I'm really one punch away from whatever it's gonna be. Like, and I trust that. I've learned to trust that my whole career, and again, feel blessed enough to be in a position where I ain't gotta panic about it. You know, like, you know, financially, yeah. But I'm always looking for and knowing that, you know, when I look at people like Sam Jackson and Denzel, these guys hit later in life. A lot of people don't know that, like, because they've been so consistent throughout our lives. But, you know, these guys didn't hit movies until they were in their 50s and stuff, right? Yeah. And you realize, and they still killing it. So you recognize, maybe Denzel was a little younger, but Sam was close to that.
Morgan Freeman is a good example.
Yeah, and so you recognize that there's always an opportunity to, you know, to hit one out the park, as long as you know how to play the game, know what you're looking for, know how to play the position that you're in, you're going to be all right. And so it is no reason to measure it by whatever's hot, whatever's the new, whatever's the latest. You know, you'll get yourself caught in the trap trying to keep up with that.
I was there for a second. When I first moved out, I was actually going, you're one of the people, I would check like IMDb, see when, you know, you first started getting TV shows, when the success started happening. Like I was measuring myself to that. Like, and at that time I was like 30. I'm like, damn, I need to do something in the next couple of years if I want to get here, because this person did that. But then you start realizing, like, you can't compare yourself to other people, just like you're saying, and everybody's success is their own. And a lot of people get it later in life. Yeah. Like, I'm a person that has always knew that I would be successful from the very beginning. You know, it was like, if I got into debt or something, like, it's all right, I'm gonna get a chunk sooner or later, right, and I better pay that stuff off. I just believe in myself like that. I guess, you know, same as like Steve Harvey. And then the pivots are necessary. Yeah. This could be end up being a great pivot for me.
Sure.
You know what
exactly.
I mean? And I was kind of against it at first because I was like, everybody got a damn podcast. But then once I bought the equipment and I got the space, I'm like, shit, I could write this shit off too.
Yeah.
You know, so it just made sense. Do you ever deal with bouts of depression?
You know, that's interesting because, you know, probably like later in life is when it's probably revealed itself a little bit more. And I've never really been one to operate from a deficit, right, where I like kind of operated in any kind of like depressed situation, right? But then, you know, you kind of, you know, you live life, you know, we was just kind of talking about this, like coming off the Neighborhood, 8 seasons, great show, hit show, but not having the kind of financial windfall that my white counterparts got throughout their TV careers, right? Mm-hmm. And it became this thing that it was depressing to me because you're fighting the system and you're making these arguments and you're going in and you're just not understanding how this is always the case with us, right? Like, it just ain't right. And I mean, this is like across the board when you look at black folks on television, very few, other than the creators, right? So you can look at, you know, like even in the last couple of years, all the big creators, Kenya, Ava, Lena, Issa, they gave them big deals. But the artists, the actors, you don't walk out with the Ray Romano money, the Charlie Sheen money, like none of the Big Bang Theory, the Friends, of course, the Seinfeld of it all, like, you know, Kevin James, and I mean, you can name
which was 20 years ago.
It feels like you know,
my point is that they were making bigger money 20 years ago,
exactly,
and you still 20 years later you got a hit show on one of the top networks.
Top network. Yeah. I mean, you don't get no more floor seats than CBS. And yet, somehow when it's our turn, it's always some reason why the money ain't there, right? Yeah. And it was just disappointing. It was disappointing and depressing. And again, I feel like I'm an intelligent person. I always try to angle my deals a certain way. And we, if you know Eric, my partner, like we not no joke about this. We not walking in letting somebody handle me. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's still, the streaming business came in. Everybody, all the big companies bought a streamer and hid behind that number. And so just like Netflix, where they pay you in advance and don't show you nothing else, that's what they would do with a TV show. They would just take it and then put it in their streamer and hide all the rest of the money. Yeah. And now you don't know where the money is. And it's like, And so you're like, well, that's crazy. And so those kind of things, kind of led to a disappointment. One of the reasons why I went to go do Broadway, I just wanted to pivot and understand that what I love to do is entertain. I will get their ass. It's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. Like y'all gonna get got, nigga. Like I'm not messing around because I feel like there is a degree of legacy that comes with your net worth, right? And it's so interesting when we see that about our stars to me. And it's so unfortunate, but including like, our great music stars, they still got to work. Yeah. Smokey still working. OJ, the Earth, Wind & Fire still got to work. Now they probably love to perform because they are natural performers, but you don't see Elton John working that hard. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like they don't have to do it. Like they somehow walked out. And I remember the greatest story, and again, I don't even really be liking to count people's money, but I just remember when great actor Philip Seymour Hoffman died. Mm-hmm. And then it was a news story. It's like, we got to figure out how to, split up his 40s, or it was like $62 million. I was like, $62 million? Mm-hmm. Philip Seymour Hoffman ain't never been the lead in but one movie, Capote. Like, I didn't know him to be. I'm like, where's Philip Seymour Hoffman get $62 million? Now he could have been born rich or something. I had no idea. Yeah. But it just was the opposite parallel energy of knowing what it is for us in this business and there. And sometimes it's just way more money for them to walk out when they have any degree of success, and us not so much.
And another thing that's kind of fucked up is that you could have took a stance with the neighborhood, like, look, either y'all gonna pay me or I'm done. But then you got all these other people that are relying on you, between the cast, the writers, man, the people that they need this shit. They can't go hit the road and do comedy. So it's kind of you put in a fucked up position where you gotta like consider all of those things. And I know what type of guy you are, so I know like the people you work with are important to you.
No, that's for real, and those are the kind of things that you take you take into account. And so, to a certain degree, even the idea of being considered a good dude or a kind person, you can see sometimes you feel like these things work opposite of you. It's certain people that get to be assholes and run away with the bag, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a very specific personality, though. I think, though, and but for the most part, and again, I'm making way more money than anybody that, could ask for. Don't get me wrong. It's just the fact that it's that bag. It's the bag that you see people walk out of television with. That you go like, oh, now that's used to be the dream, and that was the purpose, and that was the goal, and that was the real win. It's the big pot that happens, but that's no longer the case. You now still have to stay busy. You still have to stay going. Mm-hmm. Still have to you got a bigger nest egg than most, but still there's an opportunity for me to I have to, I stay active for that reason. So I'll still go do live shows, and I enjoy doing live shows. But when you put it in the case of like, that's crazy that I gotta do them, in order to kind of like take care of my daily bread. That's a wild space to be in, when you feel like you've shown and proved, you can do it on a high level and have done it on a high level, that, these things didn't reap the rewards that you thought they would. And that's, such is life, right? You get up and you go again.
I know you got to go in a second. I have two more questions. You just mentioned the OJs and Smokey Robinson still touring. Do you see a retirement date for yourself, or do you? And we don't think that you're ever going. I mean, I'm going to put this into the universe. You're never going to need to keep working.
Yeah.
But do you think you're going to, just out of pure enjoyment, do you think you're going to really go till you go? Because, you know, John Witherspoon was beating that road up until he died.
Well, you know, and that's the thing about it. You don't want to put it in a situation where you got to grind it out, right? Like, 'cause that's different, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I think when people got to go and they grind just to make their living, then it does, you know, it's wear and tear, right? Mm-hmm. But the joy of knowing that you are a great performer and you love to make people laugh and you can go out on that stage and you actually have the skill set and the ability to do that, it's something special. Because I did Broadway, so I did my first show back. So I started doing Broadway. I left the neighborhood. I probably hadn't did a show since January, early February stand-up show. Mm-hmm. And no, it was probably mid-February because I did a run right before I went to Broadway because I knew Broadway didn't pay that much. So I went stacked up. I did like a 8-show run, stacked up some dough. Like, all right, cool. And then I had the TV show money coming, so everything was groovy, right? And then you go do Broadway and you like, all right, this is a bit of a sacrifice, but it was a really wonderful experience to be able to do that. And yet, so I did shows last week. And it's almost like starting over. It's rusty, a fear,
rusty as hell.
It's not necessarily a fear, but it's a degree of knowing like what it takes to walk out on stage and hold an audience for an hour and truly entertain people for them spending their money to come see you. You don't take that part of it for granted. That's something I probably used to always. I would imagine I would probably always, when anybody works for me, that's what I tell them. Like, when we go out there, dog, like, you got to care.
Yeah.
Like, when you walk out on that stage, these people spend good money. They come to see me, but the opportunity is they get to see you. And if they see you be a pro and be great and be funny, them same people become your fans.
Right.
And so you can't take it for granted like a comedy club energy, like where you just walk out and you like, I'm going to try these little jokes out and I don't care. And it is a degree of how you elevate becoming who you are by understanding that commerce, getting value for what you want, your shoes, your shirt, your house, anything that you're going to pay money for, you want value back, right? And if I'm going to pay money to see a show, give me some value. Show up like you care. Don't wear the same clothes you had on all day. Give me a setup, joke, punchline. Give me some stuff that I can remember.
Yeah. Let
me know you care, right? And so when you do that ends up building your fan base and you can last. That's something, to your point, I probably would do until I couldn't do it. But not that I want to be grinding it out.
Yeah.
But just the fact that I love it. Like, I love the idea that I can entertain people on many different levels. And so I would never really just feel like that somehow retirement meant I'm just going to sit around and just be old. I always see that. I always actually feel that that's the worst. Whenever somebody retire from what they love, seem like their life ends so much faster. Like, 'cause you just sitting around waiting for something to talk about you rich or something. I don't know. There ain't no value in that.
Coach from Penn State?
Yeah.
Joe Paterno?
Yeah.
He died like a week after.
Yeah, as soon as you stop.
He like, oh, well, this shit over.
Yeah, like, as soon as you stop, right? You be like, man.
Last question. And I remember when I was working with you, one of the things that I suggested and I haven't seen you perform in a while, but you never really get into the family stuff of talking about your kids, wife, and all that stuff on stage. And I always felt like you leaving so much meat on the bone by not doing that. Yeah. Is there a reason why you just kind of left that stuff out?
Yeah, again, my affect is that I am accessible to everyone. My general kind of energy is everybody feel like I'm not their uncle, their cousin, right? Mm-hmm. I've never truly shared like the intimacy though, because intimacy belongs to me.
Yeah.
So I'm like literally. Very few people know my government name. It's out there, but I don't go by that because that's my kid's father. Mm-hmm. That's my wife's husband. Cedric the Entertainer is who you get. That's who y'all get. And I'll do observational humor. I'll do some things about my kids. You know, I'll have a couple of jokes about my kids and my wife, and very little. But, you know, I've seen comics that be like kind of go up and really share the intimacy of their life. And, you know, I find that if it's not really tastefully done, then I find that like an oversharing of a circumstance. Like it feel like dry snitching to me. It's like nigga, don't, you know. But if it's a great joke and it really works, you know, like when my son was cussing backwards, you know, I used that joke and I would put that on stage. You know, he's young and he's saying, I'm like, one of the kings of comedy. You can't be saying shit, damn though. You know, but these was real things, like as little kids, right? And you know, and no, but like just kind of the true intimacy of my household and how we kind of communicate with each other. It's always been, I always take great pride that you don't know that. Like my wife ain't a social media person. She ain't really out in the world like that. You know, she don't even like to take pictures. She like, so, you know, so when I'm at home, my world feels like mine. And I'm very thankful for that. Like I'm thankful that something I got belonged to me. Yeah. Like, you know, and so, and that's probably really the only choice. Like again, I'll take chances on certain jokes, but you know, if it's something I've really like, all right, I'm going, this was hot right here. Like I got to say this one, but in general, like yeah, I don't find myself, you know, like sharing a lot of that. You know, never really have, and it was just always observational, more to a circumstance. Even if it is something personal, I probably would change the construction to where you wouldn't even know that's who I was talking about. Only the people that know be like, why you put that joke out there? You be like, nah, but I say it like it's something else, like it happened another way.
Yeah, I feel like at some point when my daughter get a little older, she gonna tell me to stop.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it works. Again, you got a brand for that, I believe, you know? DL, like DL has a brand. But then again, you know, again, great friend of mine, and I've seen those jokes lead to a lot more trauma than they need to his family because he's willing to say these things. But again, that's just who he is, and so
it's your
like that. So
man.
Yeah, and for me, any comic that is like true to who they are, be that. Like, don't worry about it, dog. Like you know, people gonna have like opinions one way or the other anyway about everything. So you know, who gives a fuck like what folks think? Because everybody truly does feel like they know what another person's life is, and I've always been one that allowed that people to be exactly who they want to be. I never try to change people. My mother used to be mad about that. My wife used to be mad about that. Like want me to change folks, and I'm like, dog, that's who he is. That's like allow people to be who they want to be. Now again, you can't be disrespectful. You can't cross certain lines. But I'm not here to change you. Yeah. Like I'm not here to say my way is the best way or any of those things. So I definitely find myself, you know, being because I feel like I learn a lot more from people by allowing them to be who they are in a situation, as opposed to me trying to demonstrate that I know more about something and be always the leader. Like, yeah, you can learn, man. You can learn when people have, you know, hard lines in the sand, and that's the way that they are about things. You like, oh shit, that's a great learning tool to see somebody operate that way. Like, you know, and or people who, you know, free to say the language the way they want to speak it at any given time and don't worry about it. Like you like, all right, cool. All of these things are very much, you know, things that I end up, you know, digesting as tools for life and things that you can apply in different situations, especially as an actor, because sometimes you got to go find a moment that's like, oh, this character need to be more like my boy, you know, in the crib that's like this, right? And you would do this thing, you know, and I remember, like, you know, that's one thing that people, you know, as an actor, the freedom to take yourself out of it and become whatever this character is that you're reading and making these choices to bring that character to life is got to be beyond your own self, you know, identity, right? You gotta allow yourself a lot of times to find a truth that is not necessarily even your lived experience, but you know somebody who lives just like this.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what that is, at least from my POV, and I'm about to project that onto the screen and feel free to be free doing it. And that's the great thing about being an actor. You know, you saw,
somebody else.
Yeah, you get to let it go. You like, man, I'm out here. I remember, even in Barbershop, I got a lot of trouble for that movie for those things that I said about, that some of these things were definitely in the script. Some things I was improv, and I improved a lot as Eddie. But because Eddie was a character, I was just letting happen, right? I didn't, I had a black director. We had good writers and producers. And so whenever whenever you're in an environment like that and you're able to just kind of be free and say things, then some of these things make it into the movie, right? And so it was moments, though, that led to a lot of great controversy about certain things that was written in the movie, certain things that weren't written in the movie that, that was said. But I had found the truth in the guy.
Yeah.
I was like, this man is what he believed in, and that's it. I'm not fixing it for somebody's opinion about what he should be saying, because the way Eddie feel is the way Eddie feel. And I trusted that, and so I was able to stand on that throughout the controversy of all of it, and it was, it was ones that came with a lot of great, things that you had to really understand. Jesse Jackson and Rosa Parks' family called, and all these kind of things. It was like, ooh,
really,
getting real phone calls from folks that's like, Al Sharpton them called. They was like, hey man, you can't be doing this. I said, look, I'm a character in a movie. At a barbershop.
Damn.
So that was it.
That's crazy. If it
that was wild. Yeah.
Man, I love that you said, you accept people for who they are. And that's the best way to live when it comes to your circle or people around you. Because then you can simply decide whether you want to deal with them or not.
Yeah.
You don't got to conform someone to fit into your space, whether it's relationship, like a romantic relationship. You let them people be who they are. And if it don't work for you, then get out of that shit.
Yeah. That's the truth. And I think that a lot of people, we find ourselves like in situations for many different reasons. And a lot of time we feel like we owe it to someone to, either try to fix it for them or, make it softer, a landing or whatever the case may be. Whatever whatever the case is. But I always feel like, again, people can offer you a lot more when you allow them to be themselves, and you can see that truth in that. And in that truth, you can decide if that works for you or not. And that's it. It's really simple.
Exactly. Man, I know you got to go, but I appreciate you coming through. I feel like we only scratched the surface. So
yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, this was a wild hour. That was very, very simple, easygoing conversation. And yeah, it's unfortunate I got to take off. But that's it.
We do so many interviews and people ask the same shit. So my goal is to peel back the layers, give you something to work with, so you actually enjoying the conversation and you want to open up a little bit. Man, I appreciate you so much, bro, for everything that you've done for me. I can't wait to finally work with you again. I'm manifesting it. That we do some film together, and man, it's just a blessing to know you and to get closer to you, and just I really appreciate the friendship. So anything you want to promote? I know you probably got shit to want to promote, but if you want to, go ahead.
No, man, I'm actually very much in a very chill period right now.
Yeah.
Definitely go out, buy some AC barbecue.
I was about to say, what's your barbecue?
Yeah, we had AC barbecue. We had all Ralph's, Gelson's, Food for Less in the Los Angeles area. You can go to acbarbecue.com to get it. We got a very hot cookbook that's out right now that you can go and grab. The AC Barbecue Husky and Handsome Guide to Grilling Me and Anthony Anderson. That's at all, Amazon, wherever books are sold. Be sure to grab that. Very, very hot book. My wine, Seta wine that I've been doing named after my mother, Rosetta, is very popular right now, kicking in. We got a lot of restaurants in New York. When I was spending time in New York, I went around and just really built some great relationships. And so we're doing it out here as well. We're at Avra in Beverly Hills. If ever you're there, ask for it by name, Seta, Setta. And so those are the kind of things that's going to popping off, man. Just did my 13th year of my celebrity golf tournament, raised a lot of money. We do Boys and Girls Club and the Rosetta Boys Kyle's Women's Pavilion in St. Louis. I have my money again, single parent women's health pavilion that we do. That's a part of a St. Mary's Hospital that I do because when my mother got ill, it was one of these things that we wanted to make sure that, single moms and people that didn't have people to take care of them had services that can really, that they can use to go into this facility. And so got my mother's name on the front of the hospital part of this pavilion. So those are the kind of things that I work for and take great pride in doing. And so now I'm just developing, looking for the next idea, not in a really big hurry, looking for something fun, looking for something unique, looking for something that, will show up and be like the right thing. And I like that, man. I definitely want to say that to you, man. You've always been a guy that you've definitely taken the bull by the horns. And, I think like when Kev got hot, and a lot of people think that you guys were like these kind of guys that kind of rode along and got to ride with Kevin. But I think, I think about you showing up on Survivor's Remorse and other shows. You just always kind of fought for yourself and an advocate for yourself. And as a stand-up too, creating that lane and building and growing. And, and I commend that. Those are the kind of things that I feel like I see in people that even allow them to be somebody I want to work with, because I don't really want to enable nobody. You know what I mean? Like you gotta be a hustler. I'm really proud of JJ right now. Again, he one of my first original opening act, and his special Overlook doing well. Of course, Malik. Jay Phillips, Lance, like all these cats, dog, is people that I've had an opportunity with to work with and have around me. But I always love the fact that everybody is truly guys that stand on their own 2 feet, and yet you get to be inside the situation. And if the opportunities come, I know that you're not counting on me. I can say, yeah, this guy gonna be able. He gonna kill it. Like I'm not gonna worry about it. Like. I'm like, yeah, pick him. He gonna kill it. That's what's gonna happen. So that works. So, but proud of you, man. So you just keep growing, man. Homeowner, doing a lot of things, cool cars. I mean, you start getting better cars than me at one time. I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh shit. I need to step my game up. I'm sitting over here, Joe Family Man, right now. Like, Na'im out here pulling up on these boys. Yeah, it's good.
Man, I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man.
We're going to go ahead and close this one out. This has been another great episode of DMC with Na'im Lynn. Shout out to my guest, Cedric the Entertainer. And make sure y'all like and subscribe. And I can't wait to bring y'all the next episode. We out here.
I'll holler.